We have a voicemail number, and that number is 219-2-DAVID-P. This is an interesting voicemail with a historical question. How did the American right wing get so crazy? Listen to this.
Hi, David. This is Josh from Maryland.
Yeah.
And my question is just regarding the conservative culture in the United States. How did we get here? How did we get to a point where 40% of the country believes in wild conspiracy theories, believes a centrist politician like Joe Biden is a communist?
Yep.
And there's a massive misinformation media industry. All right. Thank you.
The answer is a very long one, and I've talked about this before. I spoke about this even with Noam Chomsky not that long ago. And it's like, how do you almost have to go back to the creation of the United States, but to save you the really long version, first of all, you can Google anti-intellectualism, pseudo-intellectualism, United States 1800s. There's a big anti and pseudo-intellectual movement in the 1800s, which you could say kind of is the original underpinnings or catalyst for what we see today. In a more modern political sense, you kind of have this story that I've told before. And if you've heard it before and you don't want to hear it again, I apologize. But you initially saw big reactions to the civil rights movement in the late 50s, early 60s that started to lead to people's emotions bringing them to believe and want things politically that really made no sense. Then that led into the Reagan era and people starting to fall for stories that reinforce their pre-existing beliefs, like about welfare queens and so on and so forth. That ultimately led into the Clinton era. We're skipping some steps. The Clinton era of the early 90s, where in 1994, Newt Gingrich took over as Speaker of the House and sort of went full bore on this idea that we might not really need policy. The Republicans of 94 still did some policy, but they did a lot of character assassination and personal attacks that started to go to the next level, the next step on the unhinged ladder. Under George W. Bush is kind of a sleepy doofus, for lack of a better term. Further created this idea that even though he's a sleepy doofus, this is what it means to be patriotic. And a lot of people who were quite ignorant rallied around Bush, rallied around the Iraq War, rallied around attacking Iraq because mostly Saudi men attacked us on 9/11. Barack Obama, as the first black president, a half black individual, of course, basically got us off policy altogether as far as Republicans are concerned, and just on this guy isn't even American. This guy's Muslim or Muslim, as some of them like to say. And we came that's when the even mere pretense of caring about policy disappeared. And then Trump and the QAnon and et cetera. So you can trace it back to the start of the civil rights movement in 58. You can trace it back to anti and pseudo intellectualism in the 1800s. You could even go back further if you were so inclined. But it is the fact that it's such a long history is what makes me pessimistic about the idea that we're going to solve it anytime soon. On today's bonus show, we'll talk about the Ben & Jerry's ice cream fiasco. We'll talk about a big opioid settlement, which we're going to have a lawyer on to talk about next week. And we will talk about a gender reveal party that sparked a wildfire leading to 30 different criminal charges. I'm basically against gender reveal parties, and I'm in a hot take alert. I'll talk about why on today's bonus show. Sign up at joinpacman.com, and I'll see you then.